The story begins with Alec Ygret calmly fishing at a lake, until a mage named Eldas approaches and asks if he would be interested in learning magic. Soon after, the scene changes, and we see Eldas teaching Alec how to control magical power. To encourage him, the mage mentions that, in the future, he will make friends and might need magic to protect them. Alec surprises his teacher by learning quickly. But even so, he feels frustrated for taking an entire day to master only one spell. Eldas then explains that an ordinary person would take almost a month to learn the same. Excited, Alec asks to learn another spell, but Eldas replies that that's enough for today. The boy feels disappointed by the decision, and the mage invites him to fish until sunset. Alec still wants to keep training, but Eldas tells him that he has a natural talent for magic, and that, even without his lessons, he would one day become a great mage. He also says that the rest should be left to destiny. Alec is startled by those words and asks why Eldas decided to teach him. Before he can answer, the fishing rod moves, and the mage panics, not knowing what to do, since he had never fished before. Alec can't hold back his laughter and helps him, commenting that such a skilled mage should know how to fish. Their lives continue peacefully, and time passes as Eldas teaches more and more about magic to his apprentice. The seasons change, and one day, suddenly, the mage announces that he is leaving the capital. Alec is devastated to hear that, realizing he may never see him again. Before departing, Eldas gives one final piece of advice. If Alec ever has the chance to become a court mage, he must refuse the position. The young man doesn't understand why and asks why his master taught him magic. As he walks away, Eldas reveals that he owed that favor to Alec's late mother. The story then moves forward, showing Alec as a student at a magic academy. There, he discovers that Eldas had been the best in his class and became a court mage right after graduation. However, he also learns that Eldas was later banished, and finally understands the reason behind the advice he was given. Even so, Alec decides to follow a different path. He wants to become a court mage to change the system and somehow repay what Eldas did for him. As the years pass, Alec achieves that goal and earns the title of court mage. However, suddenly, the Crown Prince Regulus expels him from the exploration group right in the middle of a dungeon. Alec, confused, asks the reason, and the prince coldly replies that he's being dismissed for being useless. Regulus explains that he always risks his own life on the front lines to defeat monsters, while Lenny, the fire mage, casts powerful spells to keep enemies away, and Ickis acts as the group's shield, blocking attacks. Alec, on the other hand, according to the prince, just stays in the rear, casting support spells, without the courage to fight for real. He says he doesn't need someone so weak by his side, and even humiliates Alec by saying he doesn't deserve to be called a court mage. Alec tries to justify why he only uses support magic, but Regulus isn't interested in listening. Lenny supports the prince, calling Alec a coward and saying that he always holds the group back out of fear of going deeper into the dungeon. She admits that she only tolerated him until now because the king had ordered them to be on the same team. Now that the prince has decided to expel him, she sees no reason to be polite anymore and says she couldn't stand having someone so useless beside her. Regulus continues, saying that Alec only got good grades at the Magic Institute thanks to others' help, and that's why he was appointed as a court mage. Alec tries once again to explain his reason for using support magic, but the prince interrupts him and asks why he carries a short sword, reminding him that commoners aren't allowed to bear weapons. Alec explains that the sword would be necessary on the next floor of the dungeon, but Regulus becomes furious. He snatches the sword from the boy's hands, grabs him by the collar, and says that no one in his group disobeys his orders. Then he rips the court mage's cape from Alec's shoulders, saying that he doesn't deserve it. Unable to react, Alec leaves the dungeon completely shaken. Even after being humiliated and dismissed, he still wants to help the prince and the group. So, he writes down some notes with information about the dungeon's deeper levels, trying to offer a way to help them. Since Regulus doesn't have enough magical power to handle the dangers alone, Alec always believed that, despite everything, they could become trusted allies. The next day, he goes to the palace to try to deliver the notes to the king, but the guards stop him from entering. They say he has been officially removed from his position as a court mage. Now, Alec is just a commoner, and ordinary people aren't allowed to enter without permission. Shocked, Alec tries to argue, but Lenny appears and tells him to leave, saying that he's now just a commoner like any other. As she turns to return to the palace, Alec asks her at least to deliver the notes to the king, reminding her that it was the king himself who appointed him as a court mage and assigned him to the prince's group. Lenny takes the notes and, coldly, tears each page apart and steps on them. Then she orders the guards to remove Alec from the area, leaving him alone, hopeless, and unemployed in the middle of the city. He feels defeated and murmurs an apology to Eldas, regretting not being able to bring change to the court. At that moment, a familiar voice calls his name. Alec turns and sees a red-haired young woman looking at him. She runs up to him and wraps him in a warm hug. Alec immediately recognizes her. It's Yorha. They sit by a river to talk, and Alec tells her everything that happened, how he was expelled from the prince's group and lost his title as a court mage. Yorha shows intense anger toward the Galdana kingdom for maintaining such a rigid division between nobles and commoners. Alec manages, with some difficulty, to calm her down before anyone overhears them. Then Yorha comments that, in fact, being dismissed was a good opportunity, as it fits perfectly with the plans she had in mind. She asks if Alec remembers the promise she made 4 years ago that one day she would bring him into her group. Alec remembers, and Yorha reveals that she came to the capital for that very reason. She stands up, extends her hand, and asks Alec to join her dungeon exploration group. Alec feels a wave of happiness but hesitates, remembering how useless he feels after losing his title as a court mage. Yorha completely ignores those concerns. To her, the one who truly belongs in her group is Alec, and everyone on her team had already agreed that someday they would go looking for him. Alec feels deeply moved by her words and immediately accepts the offer. Yorha warmly welcomes him into the rank, a group called Lasting Period. The next day, Alec departs with Yorha, carrying with him the memory of Eldas's advice about not becoming a court mage. A few days later, the news of Alec's departure reaches Regulus and his group. They show no interest whatsoever. Regulus comments on how Alec was once considered a genius among the academy's students and how great expectations were placed on him. To the prince, Alec was simply a waste of time. Lenny, meanwhile, remarks that they no longer have to worry, since soon a pure-blood noble, the son of Duke Fornius, will join their group, making them even stronger. She predicts that, before long, they will be clearing dungeons at an impressive pace, and the prince's name will be remembered for those achievements. Meanwhile, Alec and Yorha arrive at Fiesel. Known as the City of Dungeons, Yorha explains that the city is a place where there is no prejudice among adventurers. She and her friends had established their guild's base there, and the dungeon they aim to conquer lies within the ruins to the west of the city. Yorha is eager to register Alec as an adventurer, but when they reach the guild, they receive unpleasant news. The receptionist informs them that Alec cannot join the group because they explore beyond the 30th floor, and for that, a special license is required, one that is only granted to members who have been with the guild for at least 2 years. Yorha becomes furious and tries to convince the receptionist to make an exception, but she fails. Yorha mentions that Kraja was supposed to speak with the guild about this matter, and the receptionist confirms that Kraja had indeed come and even threatened them to allow Alec to join the group, leaving both Alec and Yorha embarrassed. Later, Alec and Yorha sit on a bench, and the young woman looks frustrated for having depended on Kraja's help. While they eat lunch, she comments that their group has already reached the 52nd floor of the dungeon and that they can't afford to wait 2 years for Alec to join officially. Even so, Yorha remains hopeful and decides that if they can't access the higher floors, they'll train Alec on the lower levels instead. Alec agrees with the idea, and they immediately head to a lower-level dungeon infested with insect-type monsters. Yorha uses her reinforcement magic to increase Alec's speed, and he moves around her, defeating the monsters with agility. However, something feels off when the number of insects doesn't decrease. Alec realizes that the problem must be their nest. Something is forcing the monsters to keep attacking. Yorha comments that she didn't expect to face such resistance this early on the 2nd floor. During the battle, she activates her shield and charges toward the monsters. Alec asks her not to do that, insisting that it's better to defeat them one by one. Confident in her defensive magic, Yorha ignores his warning. She remarks that Alec seems rusty, as those monsters shouldn't pose any real challenge. Watching her effort, Alec remembers that he's no longer a court mage, he's just an adventurer again, like in the old days. At that moment, he recalls Eldaz's teachings, to use magic to protect friends in danger. Motivated by that memory, Alec launches into the attack. He swiftly eliminates several monsters with fireballs and defeats the remaining ones using his wand as a physical weapon. A massive swarm of insects surrounds them, but Yorha remains unfazed. She creates a barrier around them both, giving Alec time to cast a powerful lightning spell that instantly annihilates all the insects. With the danger over, Alec breathes a sigh of relief, and Yorha pats his back, praising his performance. However, the ground shakes violently, and a gigantic mudworm emerges, nearly swallowing Yorha. Alec promises to protect her and asks if her defensive magic really was the best at the academy. She confirms, explaining that while she specializes in support, Alec is the best attack mage. Trusting her completely, Alec casts a spell called Sacrifice. A flaming serpent emerges, wrapping around the worm and turning it to ashes. While Yorha remains unharmed, she approaches Alec and comments that, as she suspected, he truly is the best attack mage. The battle brings back memories from their academy days, when they once fought a 5-headed dragon together. Alec's attacks back then were so powerful that he completely destroyed the creature. Thanks to their combined strength, they managed to clear the 68th floor of the dungeon, setting a new record at the academy. And that's how we end the first episode of the anime. The banished court magician aims to become the strongest. If you want the continuation of the next episodes, leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to catch the upcoming videos. See you next time.